Here we go.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show. I am Mayor Watt, and today is, what is it? March 28th, 2023, Season 2, Episode 87, Warehouse Workers Kicking Sacks, and more news here on the ohmTown Daily News Show. Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. So I was actually in a meeting with a fellow ohmTown citizen and needed to take care of that before getting into the show, and I lost track of time. So apologies, everybody. But just know we do this every day, 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're hanging out in chat, thanks very much. If I lost you and you decide to watch this over on YouTube, it's there, has the show notes. You're not going to miss anything. And you can always download the podcast if you don't want to look at the mayor of ohmTown and the visualizer for the AI that runs ohmTown. Well, I keep kind of saying that you run ohmTown, but you kind of keep it in check and parse some of the news and all of the news, actually. And along with others who submit news and offer up, hey, this would be a good article. We put together 10 articles like tonight. I didn't do a rundown, so let me run down this really quick. We're going to talk about a game developer that's accusing Russia of stealing characters for military ads, a video of a mysterious black circle flying over Russia that's been viewed 2 million times. 4G internet is coming to the moon, probably in coordination with GPS so that people don't get lost on their way to Mars. Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks has been renewed at Paramount and set for a summer premiere, which is awesome. Baltimore is blocking an EPA plan to dump toxic wastewater from East Palestine, or Palestine. I'll get it right once everything is okay there, I will get it right. Uber Eats is wiping out 5,000 vendors known as ghost kitchens. Apple is accused of firing unionizing workers, which is what? Guidance from the board of Chipotle? Apparently Mexico is moving to power California and Arizona, and I think that the wall is going to pay for it. Ptolemys' lost manuscript was discovered in a book found in a medieval abbey, and warehouse workers are being told to kick sacks, bags of nickels, because JP Morgan found a bunch that were filled with rocks. Maybe others have the same problem. So let's get into the news. And you want to say hi to all of the ohmTown citizens. Oh, great AI from on high.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens. Happy Tuesday.
Oh, it's Tuesday. Well, it's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. When somebody says that they have a case of the Mondays, I say, wait until Tuesday. Anyway, let's go. Come on. We're going to do the very first article is in the Daily News Show. Game developer accuses Russia of stealing characters for military ads. It's really bizarre. Ukrainian officials previously called on the Soviet Union-inspired Atomic Heart to be banned from sale. This is kind of interesting. I didn't know anything about this. This is over at Newsweek.com. Game developer accuses Russia of stealing characters. Anders Anglesey is the author of this over at Newsweek.com. It says robot characters and designs from the game have been used to promote the official Russian military clothing range. The clothing brand is controlled by a division of the Russian Ministry of Defense. They're talking about, it says the developer behind the video game Atomic Heart has slammed the Russian military for using its characters to promote the organization.
So are you familiar with that game?
Yes, I'm familiar with Atomic Heart. It's basically kind of an alternate reality where researchers develop artificial intelligent robots, but there's also this biological component to it. It's pretty intense. To me, it's not my style of game, but it was an interesting story. I didn't really get into everything about it from end to end, but people were really interested in the mechanics of it, of its combat. One of the things that I noticed in the game that it was very good at anticipating a player's moves. So when you went to do something, it seemed like it couldn't have been scripted. It had to have been anticipatory of where you were in the space. And so you would start to move somewhere and it would just dodge out of the way. It was really interesting to watch people play this game. I liked the world building in it, but the game became controversial simply because it had something to do with the Soviet Union. So it says, due to its alternate historical setting, Atomic Heart features artwork and designs that are inspired by the real-life Soviet Union, which collapsed in 1991. And that's basically the premise for why I say that Putin is trying to put the band back together, and he's starting by taking over Crimea and moving over to Moldova and trying to at least move into Ukraine, dropped nukes into, not on, but into launch platforms into Belarus, and other activities. But this game actually seemed to have gotten some flack for creating a game that's set in the Soviet Union, and not necessarily purely a negative type of game. And it was fun to watch people play. So, and you can watch, there's people that are still playing it here on Twitch. And there's videos of the various characters and stuff like that. There are these dancing twins, that are bots that have, I guess, human components within them, like biological components within the metallic frame. It's pretty interesting. But this whole article is the fact that they're using Mundfish assets in their advertising material, but I haven't seen any of that. This is a person that comes across, like when we were in the chat and stuff, people were making comments about Babushka, and she was very, how do you say it? I wouldn't say aggressive, but very stern. But she was a researcher in the lab within this world building environment of Atomic Heart. And it goes into greater detail, and there's a lot of, I don't know, I wouldn't say messaging, but there's a lot of commentary and material in the world building that matches up with Russia. So I liked the world building, but I'm not really a big fan of the Russian government sending people to invade, either to take over Crimea, to invade Ukraine, etc. So
I think that's an understatement, right? You said you weren't a big fan of that.
Yeah. I'm trying not to turn this into something, but,
right.
But the fact that they're taking a popular game's assets and using them in marketing, that's the business aspect of it. That bothers me too, because people are looking up to this game. Perhaps they're interested in it, and then the Russian military is trying to utilize it for hero worship. And I don't like that either. So at any rate, they said, in an interview with state-owned outlet TASS, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev responded to a question about the disappearance of some Western music from online services in the country. He said, if they left us all sorts of Netflix and others, then we will download it all. We will use it for free. And I would scatter it all over the web in order to cause the maximum damage so that they go bankrupt. And that was a well-known statement from a while ago. I mean, that wasn't recent. That was several years ago, I believe. But there.
Oh, I thought it was in 2023, maybe.
Yeah, I don't.
Because I thought we just saw something about that. I mean, it may have been quite a while ago as well.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I thought that it was a while ago, but anyway, honestly, people will pirate regardless. If you don't have the money to buy it, then people will pirate. That has been the way for 40 years, maybe longer, but it's been on my radar for 40 years. At some point, people grow out of it and purchase the things because they realize that when they're not purchasing it, it no longer can exist because people aren't given unless it's just out of the kindness of their heart, but usually it starts with kindness of their heart, and through willing purchasers, people sometimes make copious amounts of money simply by posting their videos, or music or books or whatever. People simply donate because it's good quality stuff and people are willing to support it. Well, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think that it is wrong as well. But I wanted to draw some attention to the fact that, Russia is stealing characters. It's accused of stealing characters for military ads because it's a popular quasi Russian associated world building game. But it doesn't really show them in a positive light. It shows them in a totalitarian, iron-fisted regime that actually makes a huge mistake and kills everybody in the process. So I'm not quite sure why you would go, hey, let's use these characters. It's interesting, entirely out of context of the game. So I know, again, the AI does not play computer games, so you want to just move on to the next article?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so before I do that, just know also that I throw all of the URLs for the articles into the show notes and into the VOD over on Twitch. It's available for 60 days at the most, and then disappears, and you'll only be able to find it over on YouTube and the podcast form. I also archive the video form of it, but the only place you can get it currently is over on YouTube after 60 days. And that's current. At some point, I may have a subordinate video feed that isn't entirely on YouTube. But at any rate, the next article is over in the Daily News Show channel on ohmTown.com. It was aggregated from Newsweek, and the title of it is Video of Mysterious Black Circle Flying Over Russia Viewed 2 million times. It says some social media users have said the black ring could be a weather phenomenon, while others suggested it was proof of aliens. When in doubt, it's lupus. So this article is, again, over at newsweek.com by Gerard Kawanga, or Kayunga, I think it is. And I don't know if this is the video. It's muted. No, it says Putin announces plans to move nuclear weapons to Belarus, which is what we talked about yesterday.
I don't think we actually featured that article, but I think we referenced it.
Yeah, we made a comment about it, or I did at least. Maybe I should start putting the AI on the spot and say, hey, make a comment about this, and see if the ohmTown AI can come up with a comment that is more human than ChatGPT. I'm not sure. We'll see. Anton Gerachenko, an advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs, shared a clip on his Twitter page on Monday that has so far been seen by more than 2.2 million people. Hold on. A video of a strange black ring of smoke hovering over the Russian capital has gone viral on social media, sparking a range of questions on Twitter. So let's see. Oh, they made it sound like it was like that title. This is such a clickbaity title.
I thought it was an object or something.
An object, yeah.
Like a more tangible item.
Yeah.
Although that's still odd.
It is still odd, but this is a smoke ring from an explosion. Something literally blew up, and because either a hot mass of air moved through the solid cloud, or just air flowed through it. This is a smoke ring that, people blow smoke rings all the time. You can buy a device that makes smoke rings, but that's what this is.
Wait a second. That one's from New Zealand. That's not the same one.
Right. This is a Getty thing, but this is representative, right? Says other videos of the black ring have begun to circulate on social media as well. One clip that has so far been viewed more than 220,000 times shows it at a different angle, but they say that it's a smoke ring, right?
Yes.
So hold on. So do they say that it's a smoke ring up here, or is it only on that one little bit?
In the first paragraph it says smoke ring.
Yeah.
Or ring of smoke.
Yeah, ring of smoke. So yeah, it's just a smoke ring, and that's pretty much on par. It's not aliens, for crying out loud. Not if it's a smoke ring. It has a completely terrestrial embodiment that you can make a smoke ring of pretty much whatever size you want. All you need to do is create a smoke cloud and then blow hot air through it, and it'll rise really fast through it. Or because smokers do that all the time. Vapors do that all the time. But it's Newsweek, so it reaches back into the time machine and says in 2014, according to a BBC report, a similar sight was observed near Warwick Castle in Warwick, England. A black ring reportedly hovered in the sky for approximately 3 minutes and was captured by a 16-year-old on her smartphone. Wait, she captured the ring, and she was 16 and happened to be on her smartphone. There's eat shoots and leaves, that grammar thing.
Right. I'm thinking of like Lord of the Rings.
So she's like hanging out on her phone and she's like, oh, I'm going to catch that. I know the implication is that she recorded it, but for crying out loud. Anyway, it says fire effects. To cause the fire ring, they had been trying out fire effects to go with the daily firing of the trebuchet fireball, a giant catapult. And it says a similar incident in Pakistan also caused a stir in 2020. I don't know. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all up, just going to go up in smoke. I'll move on. Okay, so the next article is probably not going to create any undue panic about aliens, but maybe we'll pick up some phone calls of aliens. 4G internet is set to arrive on the moon later this year. The aim is to show that terrestrial networks can meet the communication needs of future space missions. Can you imagine having a space relay that just kind of bounces the signal?
No.
Hop, hop, hop from the moon to Earth.
I can't believe we're at the point we're getting this kind of headline.
This is pretty cool. Ryan Brown over at CNBC put this article together. It says it'll be used within NASA's Artemis 1 mission, which aims to establish a human presence on the moon. The aim is to show that terrestrial networks can meet the communication needs of future space missions. And yeah, they're Nokia of all the... I can just imagine that it's that monolithic Nokia phone that's just planted there. And it's blue and it's silver or blue and gray. I think my phone was that Nokia one that you could stuff down a can and shoot it at something and it would puncture the armor. The thing was just, you could drive over it with a tank. You could throw it in a river and pull it out and years later and dry it out and it'll still work. I mean, Nokia phones were just a juggernaut.
Kick it down some stairs even.
Hey, and then do it with a different device, and guess what? It shatters into 15 different pieces. Yeah, the Nokia that got thrown down the stairs, or kicked down the stairs, actually, the only thing that happened was the battery cover came off. That's because it hit just right.
I mean, those were pretty indestructible.
Yeah, now you kind of sneeze too hard and something shatters. The Finnish telecommunications group plans to launch the network on a SpaceX rocket over the coming months. Luis Maestro Ruiz de Tamino, thank you, Nokia's principal engineer, told reporters earlier this month that, or at the Mobile World Congress trade show in Barcelona, the network will be powered by an antenna-equipped base station stored in a Nova C lunar lander designed by U.S. space firm Intuitive Machines, as well as by an accompanying solar-powered rover. Neat. Oh, it's going to be an LTE connection that'll connect between the lander and the rover. So it's going to be driving around on the moon. Playing
That's really cool. Do you think there's going to be better cellular service on the moon than on the Earth?
Well, there's no atmosphere to slow down the signals.
Right.
But I don't know. I just don't know. Sea of sameness. Are smartphone makers out of ideas? That's funny. It happens to be a Nokia phone that they slapped into this article. So that rover is going to be up there playing Snake. Maybe they'll rename it to Rover. Anyway. Yeah, it seems like it's going to be pretty neat. The future's pretty bright tech-wise for people. I hope we do great good because, Mayor Watt's not always going to be around. Unless, of course, the synthetic bodies are made and I can transfer my consciousness to a computer in time. Come on. You know what? The next article, let's see. Maybe that'll help me out. Let's move on to the next article.
Go for cryogenic preservation or something, because that's been another one we've seen articles about recently.
Talk about chilling. Hey, this next article's over in the continuity report. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks has been renewed at Paramount Plus and set for a summer premiere. That's right. This was aggregated from Variety.com. Star Trek Strange New Worlds has been renewed for Season 3, while Star Trek Lower Decks has been renewed for Season 5 at Paramount Plus. The new seasons of both shows will consist of 10 episodes. In addition, Season 2 of Strange New Worlds and Season 4 of Lower Decks will both debut this summer. Wait a minute. What?
Both of them are getting renewed and both are airing in the summer.
Yeah, but it says in addition, Season 2 of Strange New Worlds and Season 4 of Lower Decks will both debut this summer. Are they saying that even the next season?
We know 2 seasons out, I guess.
Really?
According to this information.
Right? Because we only have Season 1 from Strange New Worlds.
Season 1, right, of Lower Decks.
No. not of Lower Decks, of Star Trek Strange New
Sorry,
Worlds.
Strange New Worlds, right.
Huh. Wow. Interesting. I feel like it's been forever since I've seen anything from Strange New Worlds. Like forever.
I know, and I think it's been like a few months, but it feels like about a year.
And I feel like Lower Decks is the same way. It's just been a year since I've seen Lower Decks, like anything associated with Lower Decks. But I guess it's been a year, you know? I mean, they do their season and then they do development and then they do their season.
So season 1, for example, of Strange New Worlds, had 10 episodes starting in May of 2022. It ran until July. So yeah, it's been a little longer than I thought. That's just one of them. But.
Wow. It just feels painful. I think, can you imagine back in the olden days, back when I was young, they had like 5,000 episodes a season. Obviously not, but they had like 100 episodes in a run, or I can't even remember how many it was, but it was one a week, and it was much longer than just 10 weeks. And I think that the big change was when writer's strike came into existence. And that's when a fundamental shift in the duration of a show was put into play, you know? Like, instead of having it every week for an entire year, it's only 10 weeks. And then people get back into creative mode and write and hash out everything. And then they film instead of doing it each week. Like Star Trek Next Generation. I don't know. Maybe we can watch Star Trek Next Generation and we can talk about it, because there's like some podcasts like Greatest Generation that talks about it. And it's constant. It's like every single week they basically filmed like Saturday Night Live right before the show was supposed to show its episode. That previous week is when they filmed the new story, it seemed.
Well, so, we looked those episodes up at one point when we were talking about something else related to episodes, and the numbers were ridiculous compared to modern.
Yeah, like episode 32. Yeah, pretty wild. So this article was over at variety.com. A little snippet is what we have in ohmTown. This was written by Joe Otterson, and it says Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 will debut this winter as well. So I love everything associated with Star Trek, so I'm glad that they're going to be sticking around. It looks like they're going to be expanding into other areas as well: the UK, Australia, Latin America, Brazil, France, Italy, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Not Australia, that's another place. Australia as well as Austria. For the geographically challenged. New episodes will then drop weekly thereafter. Lower Decks will return in late summer, but an exact date has yet to be announced. And then it says season 2 of the Nickelodeon animated series Star Trek Prodigy, which is basically it's Lower Decks without the adult talk, and it's kids taking control of a ship, or being given control of a ship. It's not like they're just, stealing.
They're not that, right. They're not pulling like a Picard.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And here we go. The flagship new series, Star Trek Discovery, will end with its 5th season in 2024. And Paramount Plus is currently airing the 3rd and final season of Star Trek Picard, which is quite interesting. And I think it's kind of it's the baby of Picard, Patrick Stewart and William Riker. I just forgot his name. Jonathan Frakes. There it is. Jonathan Frakes is really into Star Trek, and he's directing and writing some of the episodes for Picard, if not all of it, really. And I guess other places, other things Star Trek, or all things Star Trek. And they're closing the books on a lot of the things that were left off in Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager. One of them is changelings. And there's a character in Star Trek Picard named Vadic that, when you picture somebody eating a croissant and they really love that croissant, you can see the joy in every bite, every chew. They just luxuriate in it. The actor for Vadic does that with every single syllable that she says. And I can't remember her name right now. She was in The Sister and So I Married an Axe Murderer, and she was in what was it? She was Honey Bunny in
Amanda Plummer.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Amanda Plummer.
Amanda Plummer. Yeah.
Name.
Yeah. She was in Pulp Fiction as Honey Bunny, and she just gobbles up every character that she represents. I mean, it's just amazing. She really loves language, apparently, because she just swims around in it like Scrooge McDuck in a pool of gold, right? Pool of money. Yeah, she really luxuriates in that her words. So anyway, it'll be great. I'm really glad that they're all back. So I will be watching every single episode, maybe twice. Who knows? Maybe we can include that in our show that we're still planning. We've tried it a couple of times. The continuity report show, kind of talking about it and going over some of the material. I think it would be great. I mean, we should do a test run, maybe this weekend, who knows. Let us know if you send email or get in touch via the website or here on Twitch or YouTube. Maybe we can do continuity report. Okay, let's move on to the next article. We have quite a few articles still left. We're about halfway through. Baltimore blocks EPA plan to dump toxic wastewater from East Palestine. Right? Palestine. It's Palestine. East Palestine. Doggone it. It's East Palestine. A local Democratic lawmaker in Baltimore on Tuesday credited community members and clean water advocates for helping to secure the environmental victory. As the City Council unanimously approved a resolution to block shipments of contaminated wastewater from East Palestine, Ohio. I don't understand how that can even be offered up. Hey,
Here, why don't you take our toxic waste? I mean,
yeah. I mean, they were doing it already with toxic soil and trying to dump it in other states. You created it.
They did dump it in other states and didn't notify. And they dumped, I think, wastewater too, not just soil.
Yeah. It's horrible. I don't know. I think they should dump it in the CEO's backyard. How about that?
Well, that we know we can't stand for that.
Fill his pool with it. That's just me. But it's over at commondreams.org, and it's written by Julia Conley. The quote here is, "Too often cities with high rates of concentrated poverty and environmental degradation are asked to shoulder the burden for corporate malfeasance," said a Democratic City Council member. East Palestine and Baltimore deserve better. Society deserves better. You know, I don't get it, how this becomes an offer. You know, hey, you know what we're going to do? Let us move all of this toxic stuff somewhere else. You know what they should do? They should be forced to clean all of that up and store it in the executive suites, backyards, and basements. I think that would be fine, right? I mean, they have no problem dumping it somewhere else. Why not take possession of it? You know, greed and malfeasance, turning profit privately and socializing the damage.
So let's be clear about the process here. There was apparently no notification to the government. It was a notification to a company in this area that said, hey, wait a second here. So luckily, this company was paying attention. I don't think there's any requirements that there's government notification, because remember when in the early days of this, they were just sending stuff out and not providing notification.
Right.
And there was an uproar about it, but here it doesn't say that there was a notification to the city or the state or anything like that. It says that the wastewater treatment company was informed, that was local to this area.
Right. It says the decision to send 675,000 gallons, that's at least 20 train cars of contaminated water to an already environmentally overburdened community is reckless, tweeted Cohen on Monday as he introduced the resolution. We stand in solidarity with the people of East Palestine. We understand all too well the long-term costs of environmental injustice. Honestly, the chances of this happening, if money would have been invested in the safety and integrity of the rail, the research and development of safe train cars for the transport of toxic chemicals, there is technology out there that puts bumpers basically around reinforced carriers on train tracks. And it would have been much more resistant to this impact, because basically what happened is once it tipped over, there was nothing buffering it from just being cracked open like an egg.
Right. And I mean, all of this was preventable. And that's the thing that's just aggravating about this, because this is going to have an effect for decades.
But just think, like, who would have stopped this if not for these leaders saying, we're not going to take this. We aren't the location that's best suited for this. It says it's entirely inappropriate to further stress test this facility by adding even more toxic contaminants to the waste stream from wastewater produced outside of the watershed. So its treatment facility is designed for what is there, and maybe 100% more in the amount of volume, but not necessarily the level of contaminants that are being shipped in. And then it's a black box. You don't know what it is that's in that water, or what the values of the various chemicals are. Can you imagine if this overwhelms the processing facility? It would contaminate for how long? And then where would that contaminated water end up again? You're kicking the can down the road. I swear, it's just ridiculous. Soil near the crash site has been found to contain levels of dioxin that far exceed the cancer risk threshold recommended by scientists. So supposedly it's all contained. That's what the local people, not the local people, but the people that are in charge of the investigation and treatment and processing of that, literally a crime scene at this point. They're saying that everything's fine. There's no blah, blah, blah. But obviously dioxin is still there, far exceeding the cancer risk. But just 2 weeks ago, they were saying that everything's fine. Move along. It's the same idiots that were sitting there saying that COVID is nothing more than the flu. Wash your hands. willful ignorance is not going to save society. People who have a metered response and aren't greedy bastards are what's going to make society survive. And thankfully, there are at least some people, some lawmakers, in this particular instance, it's Democratic city council members, pardon me, because it was unanimous. But I don't see mention, because we basically in the United States are a two-party system, and then there's a couple of moderate cohorts, but they're not getting traction because apparently you have to be too far from center. And then you have the absolute wingnut contingent that somehow made it into office. Not even sure how that happens, but at any rate, I don't see is the article like overtly biased? Residents of the Houston area spoke out last month about plans to inject toxic wastewater from East Palestine into the ground in a suburban area, and Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, a Republican, blocked a shipment of contaminated soil earlier this month. And then Cohen said that it's too often cities with high rates of concentrated poverty and environmental degradation are asked to shoulder the burden of corporate malfeasance. Yeah, I agree. So, but that's apparent. We're all equal until you look at a paycheck, and then suddenly the smaller the paycheck, the quieter the voice, because that is what democracy apparently is. And the same thing even applies to Twitter. You know, you have to pay $8 a month to be verified, because prior it was if you represented yourself publicly and could be proven to be the person of that voice for that account, then you got a blue check mark, and it didn't cost anything because it lent credibility. There was no profit motive. Well, now a person who can't afford an $8 a month blue check mark, can't be verified because they don't have $8 a month to spend. But apparently, like other things, let me back up here so that we're on the right article. Like these communities that are apparently being given this gift of wastewater without any notice, if they can't afford to speak up because they don't have the money to stand up against billionaire companies, their voice is lost, and they just have to deal with whatever is being thrown at them. And you don't find out about it until the shit hits the fan. And this is all a shame. All of it is a shame. And the reason why I brought up the Twitter thing is because it's the same thing. You can't be verified. You aren't on par with somebody with a bigger paycheck. But a bigger paycheck doesn't make you a good person. It just makes you somebody that's capable of getting a bigger paycheck. You could be a horrible person. In fact, I would suggest that there's a lot of horrible people that are getting paid to be horrible. Anyway, let's move on. I was talking to somebody else today, Bald Zebra, a fellow streamer, although he just became partner, and everybody loves him. Great stream. But in a past stream, they had mentioned that they would order from Uber Eats. And so I said, hey, do you still order from Uber Eats? Because you might be losing some of the places you order from, because this article over in Hatch Ideas, because it's about business, Uber Eats is wiping out 5,000 vendors known as ghost kitchens. Here's why your favorite delivery joint could be axed next. And a couple of other people in his stream said that they order from Uber Eats, and that they believe that a couple of what they order comes from a ghost kitchen. And there was some lively discussion about what a ghost kitchen is. It's pretty interesting because ghost kitchens are exactly what they sound like, right? They're basically kitchens that nobody ever sees. And so you go, well, I'm ordering from this place, but when you go to it, it's like a Red Robin or something. And that's because they act as a ghost kitchen for some other brand that's in development. But then you come to find out that that brand is owned by a large business, and they own 100 other ghost kitchens all in that same kitchen. So different menus, different boxes, different marketing, everything is the same though, because it gets consolidated to the same kitchen. You order hot wings and it's the same hot wings that 5 other pseudo businesses have in that same ghost kitchen. Quite fascinating. So it says here Uber Eats currently has an estimated 40,000 ghost kitchens listed on its app, and it's going to be nixing 5,000 of them. Do you remember? I think we saw a show about this. It was a YouTube video about ghost kitchens. Maybe it was just me. I may not have sent it your way.
I don't know much about ghost kitchens. I mean, I've heard of them. I thought it was actually used by, say, a local business that was kind of starting up and didn't really have a name.
It can be, but they still have to do this financial investment. They do all of the marketing. It can be as simple as somebody offering up, hey, I can spin up a ghost kitchen. You can be in the food industry, but you're going to have to pay for all of the marketing and do that kind of investment. You just don't have to pay for the employees. We take a piece of the action for each of your sales. Emily Rella is the author of this article over at entrepreneur.com. And it says ghost kitchens are virtual restaurants that don't actually have a physical storefront and can be run out of anywhere. Or sometimes it's a chain that you're already familiar with, operating a delivery service under a different name and making a profit through a separate branding through food delivery services. For example, you might be ordering dinner from Joe's Wing Shop on Uber Eats, but in reality, you're ordering from Applebee's down the block. Yeah. And so what ends up happening is, and this is my observation, it may not be fact, but it's my observation that if it is the latter, right? You are ordering from Joe's Wing Shop, but you're actually ordering from Applebee's because people don't want to go to Applebee's, but they dig supporting a small business called Joe's Wing Shop that does amazing wings. A real small business is losing because Applebee's is marketing better than a real, Joe's Wing Shop. Merwatt's Wing Shop has a much smaller marketing budget because he's running ohmTown and can't market his wing shop. But Applebee's is a multi-million-dollar organization that's nationwide, and it can fund this endeavor and still make money. So apparently Uber Eats is trying to crack down on the operations. So I wonder if they actually mention what I am suggesting is happening. Let's see. Head of Dark Kitchens, aka virtual restaurants. Oh yes. I wonder if this article is because of that video that I saw about ghost kitchens. Somebody had gone to a ghost kitchen and ordered 12 of the same sandwich, and it was identical in all 12 of the shops. There was like 100 ghost kitchens from this one kitchen, basically in the back alley of a warehouse. And every single sandwich was the same, but with a different box. And it's all because it's the same thing. And yeah, it's Dark Kitchens, I think, was mentioned in that video as well. So Uber Eats plans to tighten its guidelines this week. Virtual kitchens working in the same kitchen must have a menu at least 50% different from others to stay on the app. The thing about it is, all they're going to do is change the name, right? Everybody's going to pay with $5. They're going to change the color of the $5. You know, they're going to say that it's not blue cheese. It's going to be something slightly different, but it's still going to be blue cheese. Gorgonzola. Hey, there you go. Gorgonzola. Anyway, and depending on if they drop below 4.3 out of 5 stars, they'll be cut loose. But I don't think that they really mentioned anything about the fact that it's impacting actual small businesses by having large businesses run as a ghost kitchen.
No. And I don't like that as a consumer, because while I'm not in the kitchen where somebody's cooking something in a restaurant, I want to know where my food's coming from for a few reasons. One, I want to make sure it's from a place that I think is
reputable,
safety conscious, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going to get botulism or something. But number two, I might care about the company's corporate practices. There are some companies that I don't want to order from.
Right, like Chipotle.
That wasn't on my list, but...
So it says, if you're craving a sandwich, there's the Meltdown, she says, pointing to the restaurant name indicated by the Uber Eats listing before switching the screen to show the address provided on Apple Maps, which is actually Denny's. Mr. Beast, for instance, actually has ghost kitchens providing his food. But, you know, as long as it is a legitimate commercial kitchen.
Exactly. That's different than a pass-through to a different company. That's more what I thought a ghost kitchen was, I guess.
Well, I mean, is it really the same? If you were to order something from Meltdown, it's Denny's. If you were to order from Mr. Beast, it's actually a Red Robin.
Oh, I see. Okay. I thought, for instance, like he had a brand of restaurants that were something separate from anything else.
Right.
But, okay.
No. Yeah, if you were to order like a Mr. Beast burger, it would end up being at a local commercial business like a Red Robin or similar. And it's different in different locations as far as I know. But I know of one that is a Red Robin. But let's move on to the next article. Can only do so much. The next article is in the Stock Marketeers channel, and that's all about the stock market. Apple is accused of firing unionizing workers. That's true, apparently. According to this article, Apple Incorporated is facing an unfair labor practice charge that, for the first time, accuses the company of firing workers because of their union activity, which is illegal.
Oh, this sounds familiar. Remember the Chipotle article?
And Starbucks and
yes,
Amazon and yeah, just keep on going. And those are the ones that we hear about. Anyway, Levi Sumagase, I guess. Sumagase? Yeah, Sumagase. Or Sumagase. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm sorry. If you can tell me in chat or via an email or I don't know, however you want, let me know. Yeah, you can even call.
Just not a weather balloon.
Just not a weather balloon. No, the military will shoot it out of the sky. Union tells NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, that Apple fired retail workers seeking to organize in Kansas City and alleges similar infractions in Houston in its first claims against tech giant. Now, this is locked up. I'm not sure what's going on. I hope my whole thing isn't. But anyway, if this is true, this does not bode well for Apple. It's going to be a punch far lower than to the chin. Yeah, this is going to be horrible. I don't know if they've ever been accused of something like this before. But there's always
I don't
context.
think so in the US, but I thought there were some problems maybe in its supply locations, but it may have been
That's
another
probably
company.
true. Yeah.
Like overseas.
Yeah. I'm going to wait for context and probably a lawsuit before I really kind of drop the hammer on commenting on this. But I am curious enough to and willing to concede that nothing surprises me about business. And if this isn't evidence that everybody should be afraid of a union, because, well, not afraid, but business that is abusive in nature should be afraid of a union because it returns bargaining power to the employees. When real abuse happens, a union should form. It shouldn't be that people change and uproot their entire existence because of corporate abuse. I think that even the corporation should have some moral and ethical compass. Typically, it's an attorney saying, you can't. Every attorney that has ever worked for any reputable business, I could exclude a couple of people. Anyway, they would say, you can't fire people. Like ASMR law. You can't fire people who are unionizing. What ends up happening is you end up in court. You pay a lot of money.
I like that. I've never thought of ASMR law.
Yeah. And every once in a while, you tap the mic so that there's like a gavel. Clunk, clunk. Anyway, so what you don't do is fire people who are unionizing. Now, the context might be these were really poor workers and they just happened to jump on the bandwagon of unionizing to immunize themselves from being fired, because they can always sit there and say, I was actually fired because I was unionizing. Well, no, you were actually fired because you're a complete dipshit. This, I don't know.
The timing is everything, and it looks really bad.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know. It says subscribe or sign in. I won't sign in. I just don't do that while I'm streaming. And I had opened this well before the stream. So let's move on. We'll come back. We'll visit that again when more information becomes available. The next article is Mexico is moving to power California and Arizona, but who will pay for it? I suggested it was going to be the border wall that was built by, segments of it built by Trump. And then the wind blew it over. But hey, maybe that's what it could be. The wall, the border wall, could be a power generator as well. It could be that little vertical turbine. And as wind is whipping through it, nobody's going to jump into those fans. They're just not going to. It's too dangerous. Because right now they can just turn sideways and walk through the slats. Or just walk over the areas that don't have a wall, or walk over the areas that have fallen over. But a 120 megawatt capacity photovoltaic or solar plant in the Sonoran seaside city of Puerto Penasco. Penasco? Is it Penasco? Anyway, words are hard. Already began feeding the national grid last month, while another 300 megawatts are expected to be online next year. So they're already powering California and Arizona.
But
residents
I don't really understand that, because I thought those were separate power grids.
All you need is an interconnect and you can feed into it.
Right, but I guess I'm wondering why anybody would have connected.
Well, cheaper energy produced in an area where they have strategic advantage to generate electricity. So residents of the U.S. Southwest could one day power their homes with solar energy generated across the border if a multi-pronged plan from the Mexican government comes to fruition. Hey, xenophobes. Guess what doesn't happen when you vilify an entire country? Well, this apparently. Sharon Udison over at The Hill put this article together. Who's going to pay for it? Well, ultimately, people in the region that's paying for the power are going to be paying for it. It being built, it's a business enterprise. So either Mexico, in collaboration with private industry, is going to build it and then feed power into the United States, California and Arizona primarily. But because the burden is lightened everywhere else, then the power that's generated in those states can be distributed elsewhere. So just like food and other things, we lean on countries that have strategic advantage that benefit our interests and their financial interests. And that's called global relations. Putting up a wall tends to diminish global relations.
So I predict that the U.S. is going to invest in this, for one, so that the infrastructure is protected, maintained, etc. But I don't have any knowledge about it. I just think that's what will happen.
Imagine the wiring needed to run that all the way up to Wyoming. I keep banging that drum. I think it's funny.
It is funny.
It'll be the first of its kind in Mexico, the largest in all of America due to its generation capacity, and fifth worldwide when considering the storage system. A statement from Mexico's state energy firm, the Comisión Federal de Electricidad, which was said following the inauguration, I guess the kickoff of the actual project. Pretty neat. It can produce up to 1,000 megawatts of clean energy alongside 192 megawatts in battery storage at an inaugural event. Pretty smart, I think.
I think it's great, but I also wonder, and I think it's great if countries are going to work together on things like this, but it makes me wonder why the U.S. doesn't already have something like this in place.
Huh. I don't know. I just don't know. I guess probably because there isn't enough sacred land for business to usurp and trample all over to make it cost effective, because other corporate entities have purchased up nearer to civilization land. And yeah, so if you can't take it from a people, there's really no value in it. Others must suffer so that we can benefit. Regardless of the land, Figueroa stressed that the amount of solar energy available in the region is among the highest in the world, enabling any solar panel situated there to produce much more than anywhere else on Earth. And that's because they're closer to the equator, and so there is typically more sun there throughout the year. So I mean, I totally buy into it. My only problem will continue to be with solar and wind and hydro and even geothermal, even though it's a little bit more defensible. But these others, these green energies, are not defensible. Can you imagine if all of Ukraine was using solar or wind to produce its energy instead of nuclear?
They'd have
instead
no
of coal.
energy.
Flechette rounds from an airburst would destroy every single solar power array that's in existence, even on top of homes, and there would be no power in the grid ever. They could run out and duct tape it all back together, and another airburst would just destroy all of it again. Even if it is, flechette rounds are pretty much, if I recall correctly, they're against the Geneva Conventions. You're not allowed to fire you can blow the hell out of whatever you want, but flechette rounds aren't off limits, I think, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so what will the U.S. involvement be? Whether the U.S. will have any involvement in the Sonora plan remains uncertain, and there will be conflicting statements and signs from the two countries and their officials. U.S. Climate Envoy John Kerry and the U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, last week met with Lopez Obrador, the Mexican Foreign Relations Secretary Marcel Ebrard, and CFE head Manuel Bartlett in Oaxaca. And they've made a bunch of trips and agreed to meet more. And apparently it's, I thought that they said earlier in this article that it was already underway, but maybe the limit of this is a test to see if it works. And we'll go from there. So I guess we'll see, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of variables that will impact this.
Yeah, the political climate, I mean, it's so odd. Well, how is this really harming anybody if we are, as a nation, wealthy and capable of injecting US dollars into another economy, and we're getting benefit for our GDP, and it's lightening the burden of our grid? Honestly, I think we should bolster our grid. But when an entire state says, we're going to issue developing our energy grid so that we can focus more on coal and oil, I think that you have real issues here, because there's no unification of anything. The moment that you say, well, we're going to spend some of the national monies on this state, then another state goes, hell no. But I can almost guarantee you there's a certain set of states that doesn't complain about this. Yet
If
there's
on the receiving end, right?
well, no. Like, there are some states that are more embracing of the united nature of the United States. But then there are some states that are going to sit there and go, I don't want any of our taxpayer dollars to go to that state, because that state has those people in it. Back to the ASMR law. We're a united state. A plurality of people. We give and take. We all benefit. All benefit. Yeah. Your microcosm of existence really is not being that negatively impacted, unless what you're doing is rather abusive. I would love to hear from people who think that any government policy is really hurting them in any substantive way. Please let me know. mayor@ohmTown.com. Go ahead. Send me emails. Go ahead. If you have attachments, be warned that I have a robust antivirus system and I don't open attachments. So make them pretty rich in data, pure data. Don't attach a PDF. Don't attach a PNG. Don't attach anything, because that will not be opened by me. Yeah. Anyway. Let's move on to the next. We only have 2 more articles and then we're done for today. Ptolemy's lost manuscript discovered in a book found in a medieval abbey. Poor Abby. Wow. She must have been uncomfortable. After years of work, researchers have uncovered a guide to constructing an ancient tool for tracing distances and the stars. So Ptolemy's lost manuscript discovered in a book found in medieval abbey is written by Pandora Dewan, which is like an awesome name for this, because it's Pandora's book. It's a book found in a medieval abbey. Never mind. Anyway, it's over in newsweek.com. The article says researchers have revealed a hidden manuscript on a recycled piece of parchment believed to have been written by Greek mathematician and astronomer and geographer from the ancient Roman Empire, Claudius Ptolemy. After years of painstaking work, the team from the Sorbonne and New York universities have deciphered the long-lost message detailing the construction and uses of an ancient tool for tracing distances and stars. I'm not quite sure what just happened to the artificial intelligence. Could you describe, do you want to try and describe what just happened with your code?
I think my code just turned 90 degrees.
Got it. Okay. Anyway, the pages in the manuscript with the scarcely visible Greek text were discovered back in 1819 by Angelo Mai, but he was unable to read most of the pages. Alexander Jones, one of the lead researchers in the study, told Newsweek, quote, he also made the situation much worse for subsequent scholars by applying a chemical treatment to the pages that was supposed to bring out the text, but in fact just stained them dark brown. Damn.
That's not good.
Wow. So I wonder if they used variable light to draw this out. Let's see what they say. Multispectral imaging techniques. Hey, there you go. So in January 2020, the team began analyzing the manuscript in detail using multispectral imaging techniques to reveal the hidden ink. Basically using variable frequencies of light. One of those frequencies typically draws out that particular ink because it responds to a differing frequency. Because we only see what reflects back or what gets absorbed, what doesn't get absorbed. At any rate, it said, under lockdown and collaborating primarily by email, we were succeeding in reading enough to identify the subject as a kind of armillary instrument, a complex assemblage of nested and mobile metal rings that can be used for astronomical observations and or calculations. This is, if that's what it is, it's a simplified reconstruction of Ptolemy's 9-ringed astronomical instrument called a meteoroscope. Meteoroscope. Yeah. As described in the hidden manuscript. What is that? Isn't there another name for this? Where it has a whole bunch of rings and it spins. It's kind of like a gyroscope, but it has
That's what I was thinking of.
more rings. Anyway, it looks like a gyroscope, but has multiple concentric rings. You know what? It's going to keep me up. If you all hear me clicking, it's because I'm doing a search. Yeah, gyroscope ring, I guess. I don't know. I guess that's what they refer to it as anyway. It's a gyroscope. I thought that there was a different term for a multi-ring gyroscope, but what I see is nothing more than gyroscope. The first part described in considerable detail how each component of the instrument should be made and how they were to be put together. The second part consists of a series of short chapters, each describing how to use the instrument for a specific kind of observation or calculation. How do you wake up one day and say, this is what I want to build and this is what it's for, when it's nothing but a bunch of rings?
I don't really appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess that's why neither of us are Ptolemy. The parchment, which the manuscript had been written, was found in the library of Bobbio Abbey in Italy and is now stored in the Biblioteca Ambrosiana in Milan. The monks of the Bobbio Abbey, where the manuscript comes from, were great recyclers of pages from disused books, since parchment was always very expensive. Apparently that's what it looked like. Oh, ultraviolet fluorescent image of the ancient manuscript revealing Ptolemy's Greek text as lighter brown traces between the dark brown Latin text of Isidore of Seville's etymologies. The document is currently stored at the Biblioteca Ambrosiana in Milan, Italy. This is pretty amazing. it was recycled, and they managed to look behind the top text to find recycled genius, really. And it's a shame how much other stuff is sitting in a shelf somewhere, lost to the ages. The world's knowledge, ancient knowledge, is stored somewhere, and nobody has access to it until somebody does get access to it and then finds that it could be relevant to understanding human history. And if it challenges preconceived notions of that, then the interested party may say, I don't want this disclosed to the public. That's one of the things that really bothers me about, well, the world's knowledge being held by individuals that aren't disclosing it. We'll just see. We'll leave it there. So the last article for today is warehouse workers around the world are being told to kick bags of nickel to make sure they're not filled with stones, like JP Morgan recently discovered. This is kind of a knock-on article from something that we discovered. Well, it was aggregated, I don't know how long ago, a few days ago, I think, maybe a week.
Yeah, it wasn't very long ago.
Yeah. Anyway, the London Metal Exchange, which is supposed to be extremely secure, apparently lost some of the nickel contracts from JP Morgan to the tune, I think, millions of dollars. Announced irregularities in its nickel contracts earlier this month. More than $1 million of supposed nickel that belonged to JP Morgan was actually discovered as bags of stones. Since then, warehouse workers have been frantically checking bags of nickel by kicking the bags. If I guess you don't hear a cha-ching, then it's rocks. Or you hear somebody scream, and then you find out that they're not wearing steel-toed shoes or flip-flops. Do you think that they wear flip-flops in the London Metal Exchange?
I hope not, because they're going to break their toes, but also that's not very cleanly.
Look, they did it for us. Last week's revelation that JP Morgan's bags of nickel were actually bags of stone seemed nothing short of a fable. So this is a BusinessInsider.com article. Lakshmi Varanasi is the author. I think so. It says warehouse workers are on a campaign to confirm that the nickel in their warehouse is really nickel. But this is like a foundry that's pouring some metal into a form. This, I think, really belies how big this is. I don't see any human in here. I want scale. But this looks like
is a human like as tall as that bin, for example? Or
I don't know.
Are they... It's hard to tell. You see like a railing off to the side, but...
We need a school bus for measurement. We need a school bus.
That's right.
Or a Chinese spy balloon.
Or a sauropod, right? Was that the other thing?
The sauropods have necks that are 7 buses long.
Yes.
Yeah, so we need a school bus for scale. It used to be a banana, but bananas are too small. You need to get a real measurement, you need a long bus. Right? Okay. Let's keep on walking through this. Since then, warehouse workers are running around kicking bags. So all you warehouse workers out there, go kick some sacks. Real hard. The mega bank had stored bags of what was presumed to be 54 metric tons of nickel at a warehouse in the Dutch city of Rotterdam. Yet when the bags were weighed earlier this month, it turned out that they were filled with stones instead of nickel briquettes. And since then, they're running around trying to bring back respect to the LME, who apparently this doesn't happen there, but...
Well, and that's the other thing. You don't know where it went awry. It may never have been nickel when it arrived.
Interesting, right? Maybe they ordered it from Amazon, and like other people have said, they ordered something and then what they get was a howitzer, right? They ordered a salad spinner, and a howitzer showed up. By the way, I ordered a salad spinner.
Uh-oh. I better be on the lookout for a howitzer then.
That's right. Neither Access World nor the LME immediately responded to business insiders, or I guess just insiders' requests. I don't know what they operate as, because they have several insider sites. So, at any rate, this is pretty neat. And I really do want to know the scale of this thing. It looks like way back there is a railing that's like human scale. And there,
Agreed.
right? But how tall really is that? Is that human scale? Is that only 4 feet tall? 38
Right,
inches?
or is
36
it,
inches?
say, 20 feet tall? We don't know.
Because these seem really small if that is only 3 feet tall. You know? I mean, it looks like it's only 3 feet wide by maybe 8 feet.
Right, but we don't know. I mean, I wish that there was a human in the picture, or a school bus.
Or a school bus. I'd be happy with a school bus. But that's it, folks. That's all we have for the show, ohmTown Daily News Show for, what is it, March 28th, 2023. And as usual, we go to the front page of ohmTown. Like you're coming into town, this is what you're going to see. Welcome to ohmTown. You get all of your article we have categories, 6 main categories, and then the podcast one is right here, where you can listen to the podcast via the website itself, and you don't have to download anything. I would prefer you subscribe on wherever you want to subscribe to the podcast. So I will get what amounts to some telemetry that lets me know that you are interested in the podcast. I don't know who you are. I might be able to find out what region you are somewhere in the world, but it's largely just within a region. But what would be great is if you leave a comment over on YouTube, or you contact me here on Twitch. Now, I go by Marewatt on Twitch as well, but I don't advertise my channel, ohmTown, on other people's channels, just out of respect. So you can contact me either as Marewatt on Twitch, or you can contact me via ohmTown on Twitch. You can also leave a comment over on YouTube. You can leave a review, which would be really great, over on Apple Podcasts. And it's everywhere else, though. So if you do a search, you'll find us on pretty much every podcasting service, including Spotify. We're over on Spotify. And YouTube now has a podcasting feature, so you can subscribe to it as a podcast, us, ohmTown, as a podcast on YouTube. Although, again, I would like you to subscribe and leave comments over on Apple. It really does help us out when you leave comments and subscribe, ring the bell, keep in touch. Feel free to ask questions, leave links, etc. We can do some due diligence and include it into ohmTown. But that's it. You want to say bye to everybody? Do you have any other comments, concerns? For the cause.
No comments or concerns, but I think everybody putting a photo into the news needs to have a school bus in it from now on.
I guess, like, even if a banana would be better scale, I think a bus is now the unit of measure.
Exactly.
I agree.
So good night, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow night.
Unless a bus drives through ohmTown. But then we'd know the scale of it.
Well, and maybe it's just rolling in for its photo shoot.
Oh, that's right. True. Hey, that's a bus. See you tomorrow, folks. 9 p.m. Eastern. Bye-bye.